From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the daily news for June 24th, 2026. These are the stories we are covering at this hour. The United States and Iran were in dispute Tuesday over whether Tehran had agreed to allow UN inspections of its nuclear sites. As officials negotiated over how to permanently end the war in Iran that Trump started, a separate plan emerged to break the shipping bottleneck through the Strait of Hormuz, which Trump caused. The disagreement over nuclear inspections came as Iran's president met with Pakistani mediators and technical teams from the U.S. and Iran continue talks in Switzerland. A United Nations agency said Tuesday that a plan was underway to move stranded ships and their thousands of crew members through the strait, a vital passage for global energy supplies that Iran had blocked after the U.S. and Israel launched the war on February 28th. Can't forget about Bibi Netanyahu. Earlier in the day, a spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry, Esmail Baghai, told reporters in Tehran that UN inspectors were not scheduled to examine nuclear sites bombed by the U.S. last year, rejecting comments made by a day before by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. Turning to news from New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani waded into Democratic U.S. House primaries to boost three allies over establishment-backed candidates. All of them won Tuesday, defeating two incumbents and essentially ensuring that two self-described Democratic socialists will be elected to Congress in their deep blue districts. The mayor said it was a question of electing better Democrats who would put working people back at the heart of politics. Go Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The approach consternated some in Democratic leadership, but the outcome showcased Mamdani's rising influence. Elsewhere Tuesday, two opposing factions of the artificial intelligence industry spent millions on a House race that became a proxy fight over tech regulation. And President Donald Trump, after two of his chosen candidates for governor lost Republican primaries this month, ensured it wouldn't happen again. The president endorsed both candidates in a South Carolina runoff, and one of his endorsed candidates inevitably won. Hopefully that candidate will lose in November. When Mamdani took the stage in Brooklyn on Tuesday night, the crowd chanted DSA, the initials for Democratic Socialists of America. This is just the latest sign of an ascendant political movement, and two of the candidates successfully backed by Mamdani are, in fact, Democratic Socialists. And finally, we have this news from Texas yet again. 8 convicted in Texas Immigration Center shooting and protest are sentenced to decades in prison. A former U.S. Marine reservist and 7 others were sentenced Tuesday to decades in prison over a shooting last year that wounded a police officer during a demonstration at a Texas immigration detention center. Prosecutors called the crime an act of terrorism and said the 8 were linked to the leftist militant group Antifa. The defendants' attorneys denied any Antifa ties, and family members expressed shock and anger over the stiff sentences. To be abundantly clear, the soldiers, Marines, and sailors who fought in World War II were also Antifa. That just means they were anti-fascist. And fascist is precisely what the U.S. government has become. Would Trumpy Dump, a.k.a. Private Bone Spurs, have locked up World War II vets? Benjamin Song, the Marine reservist who was convicted of opening fire during the July 4th demonstration outside the Prairie Land Detention Center near Dallas, was sentenced to 100 years in prison, the maximum punishment. The 7 others sentenced in Fort Worth courtrooms received prison terms ranging from 30 to 70 years. I am livid, said Lydia Koza, whose wife, Autumn Hill, was sentenced to 50 years in prison. The government wants to take her entire life away because she attended a protest? Nobody died. U.S. District Judge Rita O'Connor, one of 2 judges overseeing the proceedings, said what happened wasn't a protest, but an assault on democracy. The hell it was. All but one of the 8 defendants sentenced Tuesday were convicted on terrorism charges. No, that's called the First Amendment freedom of speech, you bitches. Maybe if Texas would wake up occasionally, they might actually be able to smell the coffee, and maybe Judge O'Connor should be arrested for being a fascist Trump thumper. That's the news at this hour. PEP Radio is available on the Live 365 app, the PEP Radio page at paequality.com, Roku, Alexa, and wherever you find streaming radio. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.